uplift women entrepreneurs in Uganda. I speak and encourage every one of us, wherever we work, wherever we be, to set up to grab the opportunities that be.
I will now welcome a representative from NSSF.
Thank you, Linda. After such a speech, I'm tempted to just move around with the book also to appear smart and make an inspiration speech like she did. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, African women entrepreneurs, for this opportunity. If Shadrach may please show that. So my name is Apollo Mboa from NSSF, and we are here to celebrate the women. When they were looking for who should speak, they looked for the women and they said, no, it's Women's Day, we need to be celebrated. Let the man take that role. So it's not that we lack women at NSSF. Actually, we have over 60% of our employees as ladies. I don't like using the word woman, but when it came to this, they said, no, let the men go and do the serving. So today I'm here to do the serving. And I'm going to give you the perspective of what at the fund, what it is about women. If Anne-Marie is kind enough. Yes, thank you. My role at NSSF is I'm the customer financial advisor. Basically what that is a fancy name for someone you talk to when you have money. Fiona is looking at me and time is going and I'm about to go away, don't worry. It's a person you look to when you have money and you ask them, what can I do with my money? And that is my role at NSSF. So when it comes to women entrepreneurs, as NSSF, we are saying, let's engage you before you even get into employment. So we are happy to engage your sons, your children, someone at 6 years, 10 years, let's talk about this entrepreneurship. I'm happy about this partnership with Stanbic Bank because we can get to talk about money in such an establishment. Let's talk about money when you're in employment. As business entrepreneurs, you're going to establish businesses. You need to take care of people's retirement. Let's talk about all that. So we will come in and engage them. And when these people retire, what is it that they are going to retire to? And let's talk about this when they eventually go away. So if Anne-Marie is kind enough to go to the next slide, before Fiona grabs my microphone, please go on. I wanted to give you the picture of what it is, women and the fund. As a fund of 1.3 million people, 32% are women. 32% are women. And if I go down to that, to breaking down the numbers, of course, 45% is the active population at NSSF. The 1.3 members, only 45% are active. But of those, let me just script down the 37%, 35% are women. Of our active population, only 35% are women, against the 64%. When it comes to the balances that could be of our 14 trillion right now, slightly update and slightly 1 month old, this is slightly 1 month still, but of the 14 trillion we have, 3.6 belongs to women who are in active employment, 6.4 belongs to men. Now, as women entrepreneurs, I need you to look at this figure and see how can we push it further. I would love to push this figure further. Of the dormant population, that means the people who are they are NSSF members, but they are not working or they are not contributing anymore. 1.06 trillion belongs to women. 1.9 trillion belongs to men. Now, start looking at that figure and start thinking around. If you are good enough to go to the next slide, as NSSF, we have decided to go out and say, let's have these drives. Let's partner with the women entrepreneurs. Let's partner with all organizations. Let's give them these programs. You can access these programs. They are public programs. Our aim is to push these numbers higher to a desirable level. If you're talking about quality, we are choosing to challenge ourselves, and we are saying this number needs to go on. Please, Anne-Marie, go on. I need to choose not to be challenged also. I need to leave this platform. So you can access all these programs, one as women entrepreneurs, but also as members of NSSF. Thanks to the partnership with AWE. I have forgotten how to mention Oh, yes. Thanks to the partnership of Oh. And as I part, I need to just leave something because it's also my job to, for every place I'm given a platform to speak, I need to leave a word or two. So I want to wish a happy Women's Day to all the ladies that are online and all the ladies that are here. And I'm saying, as you choose to challenge, happy Women's Day, but as you choose to challenge, please don't just grow old. Grow up. Choose to grow up. It's different for you just growing old, but not growing up. Choose to grow up. We are choosing to challenge. Am I right, Fiona? Yes, we are choosing to challenge. As ladies, for us, we shall choose to grow up, not just to grow old. We shall choose to be in charge of our wallets. Let's be in charge of our wallets. That means you are in charge of your finances. Don't be told how money is handled. Choose to challenge that status quo and get in charge of your wallet. Quit the salt conversation and embrace the production conversation. This conversation of there's no salt at home, Mwami, there's no Isaac Meza, quit that conversation. Let's get into how much can I bring into the family as a woman? How can I contribute to this project? Which house can I build for you, Mwami? Let's get into that conversation. Choose to challenge and do not be a beggar, but be a digger of all that is legal. Don't be a gold digger, but be a digger of all that is legal. Ladies and gentlemen, at NSSF, we are saying, don't be just an activist. It's very good, it's fancy to say women empowerment, and do nothing about it. Be an actor. Be an empowered woman. Be a wealthy woman. Be a woman when you are told to come on time, you actually come on time. Be an actor. Because at NSSF, we believe if Anna Marie is kind enough to action changes things. When we are acting, when we are actors, we shall change things. And of course, for a better life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Apollo. I like that act. What does it stand for? Wow, we are so awake this morning. Amazing. So I will quickly introduce our panelists for today. We thank NSSF for this amazing chance to have this panel in front of us. We thank you, Sandvik Incubator, for hosting us. And for the ladies that have come here today, we hope that you'll go away changed. Our panelists, we shall have, I would like to introduce Tilda Nabanja. She's going to be the moderator for the day. Tilda Nabanja, I wish there was a drum roll. Tilda Nabanja is, is a finance and investment practitioner who has over 11 years of formal experience in transforming the understanding of money-related issues with the aim of inspiring and empowering children, youth communities, corporate organization workers, management teams, the disabled, and those in rural areas. Tilda is passionate about empowering people to make sound financial decisions, believing that we can transform any resource or income that they have into wealth. Tilda works with Bank of Uganda and is a founder of Be Money Wiser, an initiative that was birthed in 2010. It has a key mandate of providing inspirational talks, financial innovations, events, and tools to enable growth of personal financial discipline across the world. Welcome, Tilda. Jean Mutabazi. I have known Jean Mutabazi for some time. It's not loud enough. Jean Mutabazi. I've known her for some time, and I'm glad to know such powerful people. She's the Chief Operating Officer at Financial Sector Deepening Uganda. Mutabazi is a forward-thinking, innovative technology enthusiast with over 17 years experience in audit, digitization, business process reengineering, risk management, compliance, accounting, and finance. Prior to joining FSDU, she was also the head of operations at NSSF, where she also served as a financial controller. Previously, she worked at AAR as a financial controller, and before that was at EY. Ms. Mutabazi holds a master's from Edinburgh Business School. She's currently pursuing an MIT Sloan Executive Certificate in Strategy, Innovation, and Technology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Welcome, Jean. She also serves as the board of Housing Finance Bank Uganda. Welcome. And yes, we have a man in our panel. Why? Men are our partners. We cannot say that we are going to move forward if we do not engage the men. Ronald Edward Mukasa is a financial literacy coach, consultant, trainer, and business development professional. Ronald has provided business management, financial literacy, and financial management training to corporate, government, and non-governmental institutions in the last 6 years. Ronald is also a director of research, innovation, and learning at Enterprise Uganda, where he has worked for the last 10 years. Ronald has facilitated several financial literacy and team building sessions, specializing in empowering teams to increase productivity and cohesion. Ronald is a certified public accountant and a lecturer at MIT Uganda. He's passionate about empowering people to fulfill their potential and often trains young people in financial literacy, business, and financial management skills on a volunteer basis. Welcome, Ronald. So I will hand the mic over to Tilda, and we wait to be challenged. Thank you.
For purposes of discussion, we'll take off the masks. I think we can discuss without the masks. Is that okay? Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we can't exclude the gentlemen, much as it's Women's Day, and more so the gentlemen that enable the women to go places, that encourage us and move us forward. So happy Women's Day, everyone. Happy Women's Day. Let's clap for ourselves. It's not easy being a woman in this day and age, but women are going places. Women are making a difference in their financial lives, their personal lives, and in the different areas of expertise that the women are in. So we are so proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing and keep going that extra mile to excel in everything that you do. Okay, so I'm really privileged to be here today with Jean and Ronald, and I'm hoping that our discussion today will enrich our understanding of money matters and ultimately be able to improve our financial lives and move our lives in the right direction. Every change we want starts with us and with the difference that we can do in our lives. So you find that, yes, today is Women's Day, and there are a number of factors that have enabled the woman out there, the woman in Uganda, to make a difference in their lives. Now, you find that in the past decade, there's been a number of things that women have done to make a difference in their lives. Now, I'll start with Ronald. What are some of these triggers that you've seen in the past decade that are moving women in the right direction?
Thank you so much, Tilda. First of all, I'm very excited to be part of this panel, and I want to congratulate all the women who are listening to us and the ones who are in the room on reaching Women's Day. It is exciting that you accepted a man to be on this panel. So I think I speak for all men when I say congratulations. I think the success of women is usually the greatest benefactors, the men, the boy children. They benefit most when women actually succeed. So it's quite an amazing opportunity that we have, and I want to thank the organizing team for bringing us here. I guess for me, when I look at the last decade, the things which have fundamentally changed. I think when you think about emancipation, you have to appreciate that one of the things which has been not fully acknowledged is the fact that many women are taking over leadership in business, and they are doing a very good job at it. It is, I've had the opportunity, as I've been introduced for about 10 years now, until recently, I was working with Enterprise Uganda. And I had the opportunity of meeting so many amazing women who are leading businesses. And many times their success is not fully acknowledged. The fact that their school owners, I know, are employing close to 500 plus people. There are people, women who are leading businesses in agribusiness, and they're doing an excellent job. So it's fascinating what has happened. And many times I think we don't fully acknowledge how tough that journey is, that this, and I can quote one of the ladies who I had speak, that when you are heading a big organization, people forget that you're also a mother, that actually that remains on the table. So I think, for me, I celebrate those women who have taken space, especially in sectors which some people would argue are not women-led sectors. Women who are leading in agribusiness, women who are very strong in trade, and even engineering. I remember when I just started working about 10 years ago, in Enterprise Uganda, I met a lady who was leading a construction company. And I was fascinated, because on her entire team, there was barely a lady on her team. But she was leading the construction company. So I think for me, one of the things which has possibly happened in the last 10 years is this young girls can believe more that they can do everything. It's becoming more possible. There's still a lot of work to do, a lot of mileage which we need to cover. But one thing which is clear is that a young girl seated back can look into the business space and say, I can actually do that. I can lead in IT, I can lead in engineering, I can lead in trade. And for me, I think that and most of you here are entrepreneurs, part of the O team. I think that's what we need to celebrate in you, your ability to give permission to other young girls to be able to say this can be done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Ronald. And I actually like the word "awe," because it reminds us to look in awe at the women out there that are making a difference in their financial lives. But you find that much as women are taking strides in the right direction, there are still a number of challenges that are keeping us back. There are a number of a few things here and there that stop us from moving forward easily. Now, Jean, have you observed some of these? Have you seen some of these challenges that women out there are facing, and possibly how would you advise a woman to overcome? You can mention like one or two, and we see how to go ahead.
Thank you, Tilda. And I like the question that you ask. And surely it's not just one or two things, there are a couple of things. But I'd like to say things like we still have a heavy leaning towards cultural norms. As a woman, and I liked what Ronald said, he was very surprised that there was a lady leading our construction farm. Now that's what is entailed in our blueprint, in our DNA. So we have the culture telling us women ideally shouldn't get into these heavy lifting spaces and pushing us into mundane tasks, routine tasks. I think the worst part about that is that those are the tasks that are easy to automate. So it's a catch-22. We've been pushed into the simple things to do because they're feminine, and now technology has come with a bang, and it's automating everything, right? So who's at risk going back again to the village? Us, the women, isn't it? So that's one of them. I think the other thing that holds us back as women is also the fact that the burden that is put on us because of the nature of our gender, I mean, taking care of families, giving birth, I do have a running joke with my family. So with my 3 kids, I tell my husband that every child took four years out of my career. So I'm 12 years behind my career, because by the time you come out of the allergies, the sleepless nights, the hospital in nights or inpatient, the man has moved ahead. He's present. Every time they say who's available on Saturday, his hand is up. You're thinking, my husband, his friend said I've never cooked for him in a long time. The children say, Mommy, our friends want to go swimming. So you're doing rounds, and you don't have time to focus. You're the one dealing with the house managers. So I guess as women, we have to be cognizant of this small detail and find ways to basically outsource some of those non-core things and find a leg into the room. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That's actually very interesting. And you see, let's clap for that's okay. Okay, so you find that, yes, the responsibility is all around a typical woman. The woman has to fend for the home. She has to cater for herself, because you also have to look after yourself and your well-being. Then there are relatives. I don't know how many of us have families, in-laws, your own family. They're also looking up to you as a woman. But you still have to what? To perform when you go back to work. So you find that much as these responsibilities are all around us, we still need to think about the finances, our finances, the ones that we have earned for ourselves as the woman, and the ones that you're managing in your home. Some of you are very lucky, your husbands declare. They come home and say, this month we have made this much, plan for the family. Not so. Does that happen? But for the rest of us, you find that, like Apollo had mentioned at the beginning, a typical Ugandan woman still receives a sente za kukameza. Have you heard of that money? The money they leave for you on a daily basis. And a typical Ugandan woman still plans for that money, saves it, invests it, buys food for the home, and also looks for other ventures that can enable them to earn some extra money for that typical home. So you find that in spite of all these responsibilities, you still need to plan for your finances wisely. Now, I would come back to Ronald. How would you advise a typical woman out there to balance all this? Balance all this and still keep your finances afloat.
Thank you for that question, Tilda. I guess you have rightly put it that and Jean touched on this too, that the responsibilities are wide, are vast. And I think I believe, and I'll speak as the man on the panel, I think this conversation has to bring in both parties. I don't think that solving the challenges of finance are going to be done by the lady. And I feel like many times the lady feels that that is actually what happens. And I know that men are very difficult to converse with on finances. And a bit of the problem is that most of us here in financial literacy training, every time you do a training, chances are high, 80% are women. And the smallest percentage are what? Are men. It means that men are not coming to the table to actually understand that we need teamwork. So I believe that when we look at this conversation about money, especially from a family perspective, it is very, very important that the conversation is had as a family. And I believe that that's a destination and an aspiration every family should have. You may be at different points on this journey, but that destination needs to be there. So that no party in the family feels that this is their sole responsibility. And it's true that certain ladies are in unique situations. They could be single mothers. And that's a different conversation altogether. But I think if it's in a setting of family, it's important that the two people are having this discussion. And the second thing is that as we have this discussion, you have to ask yourself, who has the greatest? Are we optimizing our earning capacity? Because the starting point is income for the family. And sometimes your wife is possibly better at earning money than you are. Men struggle. I mean, I can speak for men here. We struggle with accepting that our wife can earn more money than us. But possibly she can. And I think the conversation should be had as a family to ask, what if the career prospects of your wife and the business prospects are better? Are you being a support to that, to your wife, to allow her to be able to do that? Because many times the disadvantage is, and Jean talked about the culture setup which we have, the disadvantage is that if the assumption is that in a family, the man has to always earn more money, it means that the man becomes the glass ceiling for the lady. If the man reaches $1 million, the lady will never cross $1 million until the man moves. And that's such an unfortunate thing, because there are ladies who are amazing at business, and you find that their prospects of growing their businesses are better. I remember a while back we had a client, and this was a family which was leading a business. And the lady honestly had the entrepreneurial mind. Every time the husband was in the business, things went wrong. She would find when he has fired someone, she would find, so we're having this discussion. So we're trying to go around it. But the problem is that even for the employees, they wanted to hear what the husband was going to say before taking the lady seriously, that she has made a decision. I think those are the battles, and some of them are cultural battles. So I think at an individual level, you need to give yourself permission to say what's the best option for our family. If your wife has better earning capacity, then you actually allow her to be able to grow. And I think that it's important that we don't hold ourselves back on that one. But many times, I guess, and with the fear of contradiction in this statement, I think most men are very worried what happens when the woman earns more money. You find that the power dynamics change. Men are struggling with that. And sometimes they are saying possibly the option of having less money and peace. We choose less money and peace instead of... But I guess that for me, at an individual level, anyone who is listening to us, you have to make that choice and say that, you know what? My wife is good at this. If your wife in the business is better at marketing, is better at leading. I know of a big family business in this city where the lady is the CEO and the brother, this was a family business, the brother is head of, I think, operations. But the point is that the lady became CEO. That meant that the father didn't say that the CEO has to be the boy. So those are questions which we have to ask. And I think you need to evaluate, even though you have a family business and you're looking at your children and say, who can lead best? If it is true that the lady can lead better, your job as the father is to empower her to be able to do that and not to put a glass ceiling on her because of the circumstances. But lastly, what I'll say is that when you look at the income side, that is the fact. But sometimes even on the spending side, it appears to be a general rule that especially managing family finances and managing risk in families, women usually do a much better job. And I think it is important to make sure that you allow them to be able to do that. Sometimes successful businesses are suffering from bad decisions, and these bad decisions have been made because someone's idea hasn't come in. I was listening to a speaker recently who argued that he's into real estate. He's called Ramsey. He said that his wife, he uses his wife most when he's recruiting people, because the wife has this ability of walking into a room and knowing what has happened to everyone. I think women have that gift. They say, that one, I don't think they're honest. That one, I don't think they're... So he says that every time he's recruiting someone, he will bring the wife onto the table so that she participates in that process. So I think it's important to look at teamwork, but it's important to make sure that we are not putting glass ceilings on an entire group of people, largely because of what we think. And I feel like, as Jean put it, that is one of the challenges we are battling with.
Okay. So you find that that's an array of aspects that a woman out there and all those that are listening to us today need to have at the back of our minds. Women. If men have supported you to move to the next level, there is no power struggle. There should not be a power struggle. All this business is about teamwork. How can we harness what God gave both of us? Okay, I'm talking about both of us in the event that you're a couple. God has given each of you a talent. Like what Ronald has mentioned, the woman's talent could even be higher than the man, but he has supported you. You have reached the highest level of your potential. Continue working together. Eh? Don't start making this man feel, unappreciated and all that. Because at the end of it all, we have heard that the number of domestic violence cases are going up. What can we do differently as a woman out there so that we get a win-win position at the end of it all? Luckily, in spite of all these challenges that we are facing, over 77% of the adult woman out there is financially included. And I'm going to tell you more about that. First, clap for yourselves. Yes. Now, when we're talking about financially included, we mean the woman out there that is accessing formal financial services and informal financial services. Now, these are the services that are provided by banks and supervised financial institutions, alongside the savings groups. Our day-to-day savings groups that have enabled the woman out there to save a little bit more of their money. Now, this statistic was established in 2018 through the FinScope survey, and of course, that was with great support from FSDU. I'm glad we have a representative here. And they kind of evaluated the financial decisions that a typical Ugandan is making out there. And on top of which, they enabled us to understand the aspects of financial inclusion better. But women are doing a good job, and women are trying to make the best of the little they have. But with events like this, we are trying to see that a typical woman out there can do a little bit more. Why not? Let's do a little bit more and move our lives in a better direction, and ultimately, through you, the woman out there. And if each woman did their part, and we supported our families, we supported our loved ones, why wouldn't our country as a whole move in the right direction? Now, this aspect of finances is really, really crucial and critical. And I would like to turn back to Jean to take us a little bit deeper so that they understand more of these aspects of personal finance, such that we can move on with the discussion after that.
Thank you, Tilda. Thank you so much, Tilda. I'll wait for Anne-Marie to project. So we can walk through the very basic, simple steps of things that we can practice every day and end up in a better place.
Okay, I think as they project, I don't want us to miss that presentation. We can carry on a little bit with the discussion, and we'll come back to that presentation so that we get a deeper understanding of what a typical woman out there can look into when they're dealing with, especially their personal finances. Now, you find that the government has done a lot to empower women out there. And you find that as they are empowering women, most of the emphasis and the focus is on the issue of finance. Understanding how you can plan for your money. You've heard of these skilling projects that are out there to enable women to improve their skilling. And now the international community through the American Embassy have also come up with the program, the O program, to enable us to do a little bit more. Now, I'm coming back to you, Ronald. What more can government do? They are saying we are doing this, we are skilling women, we are doing... What more would you advise our government to do to empower the woman out there to improve their finances?
Well, I think there could be a couple of things which can be added. I think there's been a lot of work, for example, in the Ministry of Gender, the funds which have been put aside. I think what fundamentally we need to add to this conversation is that it's not enough to provide funding. We need to ensure that we facilitate the journey of change. There are so many things which we are dealing with. One of the ones we have talked about is the culture setup. Those are big questions which need to be asked. In how many societies are women allowed to inherit land, even in this year of 2021? You find that that's still a big challenge. If you don't inherit land, in our current financial system, there is a place you will stop. So for me, I'll take land from my father and I will use that as a security, and that means that I can be able to access. So those are things which we need to set up in our legislative setting. And I feel like, yes, this is government, but it's broader, our cultural leaders, challenging some of these cultures. We need to challenge them and say, do they still make sense where we are today? Because if we don't have that conversation, you find that it is always not a leveled playing field. We need to ask ourselves, how do we level this playing field? I mean, I'll give an example. When you think about in our society, looking after childcare is predominantly a role of the men. I have friends who live in Europe, and things like washing dishes are rotational. It is not a question of, are you in many households in this country, when you find a man washing dishes, you say this is a tough one. Eh? But the point is that if you expect your wife to do all this and excel in her career, it's a bit impossible. So we need to ask questions. I mean, when you think about things like maternity leave, do we even expect, do we anticipate that paternity leave should also be equally taken into consideration? Because possibly you want, at a certain point, for the man to look after that child, to allow his wife to go and do an interview so that she can go to the next level in her career. All those, I think, are small things which are embedded in this. So I guess we have a responsibility to, and I think that's the role government has to play. It is more on how do you build an environment which levels the playing field for the girl child, which levels the playing field for the ladies. And I don't think it is a capacity issue. It's not at all a capacity issue, but the environment has to be opened up so that people can be able to win.
Okay, thank you so much, Ronald. Before we move on to listen to Jean's discussion, just clarify for me, if we're talking about leveling the playing field, and the woman out there is being supported by the man to wash the dishes, sometimes he mops, sometimes he washes the clothes. Should that also be the same for the woman to sometimes pay rent, sometimes pay school fees? You know, sometimes should the playing field be leveled to that extent?
I think so. I think for me, in a family setting, we should look at them as family finances. When they go into what you call the consolidated fund, and I think many women will argue that the problem with the consolidated fund is the man's money doesn't enter the consolidated fund, so we don't know what is in it. But I guess that the point is that we should look at these finances as family finances. We bring them into the consolidated fund, and then we spend them. And it is important to note that the moment they enter the consolidated fund, they cease to be someone's funds. And I think that's where the trouble is. When, say, it is my money which paid the school fees, it is my money which paid the house, I think that conversation is certainly going to rub either party the wrong way. But I think that if it is viewed as money which has come in, you say that what can we do? I'll give an example. This for me is an experience I've seen in other places. What if your wife has a better career than yours? So she gets a job which is going to pay 5 times as much as you have been paying, and she has gotten that job in South Africa. The question which the man has to ask is, will he live with his what? With his wife. You get the point? Because she is successful. But the point is that if you reach South Africa and the man starts feeling like he's part of the package they are carrying, this is my car and my husband here, I think it becomes, and it's quite a delicate conversation, in my opinion. It's a very delicate conversation. Yet we all know that she has actually, if she's better at what she does, then your role, I think, as the husband is to support her in that. Not to say that, keep here, because here the power dynamics make sense. Yeah. So, and I think most of you might have friends who have gone through this big challenge of, do we actually move on? And I think the problem goes to where we started. Is this consolidated fund money, or is it money for who has brought it in? The moment it becomes who has brought it in, it becomes a very, very tough conversation. And I think that's where the balance is needed.
Okay, so thank you very much. And for the woman out there, I'll also refer to the strategy for financial literacy in Uganda. It is emphasized that finances in a home are planned for together. So you're very right. They are planned for together, and you find that most of these challenges that we face are because everyone is drawing lines on their finances. Saying statements like, senteze chichala. But senteze chichala and you're earning 10 times higher. It is still for, it's not fair. So at the end of it all, let's work together, use that consolidated money, and move our lives together forward. We should go away from these infights for obvious things that we are able to manage in our homes. But together, we can make a difference. It is not easy, especially because of the cultural norms we talked about. It is not easy. But every family can make a formula that works best for them. Stop listening to your neighbor, checking what your friend did, looking at, that is all their business. Get a formula that works for you. Now, Jean, take us deeper into this financial issue. Let us understand how a woman can plan better for their personal finances. Thank you.
Thank you, Tilda. I'm still at the point of the formula. In my head, I was doing the Y, the X. I did a lot of math. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's walk this journey that starts at the basics. And I speak of this journey because I've walked this journey and I've encouraged people to walk it, and I've seen it work. So the first thing is that when we were coming up with this presentation, I also usually have a tagline that says, I can do all things. That's where I start from. And I know some people struggle with that, but I know I can do all things because those are the gifts that have been given to me. So start with that in mind, that you can do all things. So where did we start this journey? Start with the end in mind, and what is the end? So sometimes when you're starting on this journey of financial liberation, of freedom, you must ask yourself, why do I want to get this liberation? Why do I want to make maybe a lot of this money? And to some people, it's comfort. I've listened to people who say, for me, I want to have my personal jet. And I'm like, amen to that. There are people who want to make money for a purpose. They want to make this money and build churches, hospitals, schools. And then there's a group that says, for me, I want to make money so that my great-great-grandchildren still have my name on them. So when you start on this journey, find your reason. And there's no right or wrong reason. It is person to holder. Are we together? Because when you don't start with the end in mind, you will then shoot at anything. You'll get derailed. We'll find you building a hospital, next time buying you the latest Range Rover, the other time baptizing children your name so that they can go down the line, just to remove that kind of ambiguity, fair? All right. So on this journey, there are usually what I call 3 mountains or 3 mountain summits to scale or to conquer. Why I call them mountains is that it's these little things that become mountains from moleholes. So the 3 mountains usually start from expenditure, then you move to the income summit, and then the net worth. Expenditure is usually the first place to start, because as you'll see in the following slides, if you get expenditure right, the behavior becomes easier going forward. So let's go to the expenditure summit. So expenditure summit, when you're climbing that mountain and you must conquer it, you're going to the top of Kilimanjaro, Elgon, Rwenzori, Mgahinga, all the mountains we know. When you start on the expenditure journey, remember that a small leak can sink a mighty ship. What does that mean? You might have many things going for you, but you have this addiction to entering Acacia Mall. Nowadays when I enter Acacia Mall, I'm even scared. The population in there, we need to do a census every morning. Or people walking in to spend worries me. And so you must capture those behaviors that will make you leak, drip, drop. One of my funniest things that I go back to is, if a lady selling handbags walked into this room, I tell you like 40% of the women sitting here today, or the ladies sitting here today, would buy a handbag. And I always ask, how did you know she was coming? Of course they didn't know, but they saw the bag, they liked it, they bought it. talk about that when men see iPhone. I don't know what the latest one is. They will start buying ahead. They will say, let me say it in Uganda, cancer today got 30% in an immediately, even if they met them in the bar. And you're thinking, but we don't even have tomatoes at home. So that's the thing that should be in your mind. So how do you start this journey? The first thing is you must document all your expenses. The man who told me this behavior, I was 25 years old, and he does not know today how much he saved my life. Because he said, all right, take me to dinner because I was quitting a job and I was feeling guilty. I agreed. And he said, come with a notebook. I was wondering, why am I coming? He said, buy a 48-page book and come with it. So I went and bought a Visa. I think they were called Visa books, with a pen, and went to the restaurant. I think it's Handai, the one that is on Kampala Road or Ginger Road, one of those things. And I was worried. For me, my biggest worry was that I had 100K, and this man looked like very high maintenance. He was the MD of the company, the bank that I was living then. And so when I get there, he says, did you come with the book? I said, yes. So he says, write down what you'd like to have when you retire. And I said, fair enough, I'll tell you what I want. And I wrote my crazy dreams. I even had horses in it. I'm crazy like that. Mm-hmm. And after writing all those crazy things, he said, the more imaginative your list is, or the more unachievable your list is, the higher the chances you're going to become a thief. I said, wait a minute. It is in Uganda. He says, yeah, you'll become a thief because you put things there that will force you to steal. Write something again. So I wrote things, and he said, now fold that paper, put it in your bag, and don't ever take it out of your bag, aka your wallet. If it gets old, rewrite it. I said, no problem. I hope it's not witchcraft, but it's my handwriting. He then said, now pull out that exercise book again and write down everything you've spent on this month. Well, I remember I used to go to Wandega to buy shoes. Anyone who goes to Wandega, you know Wandega is addictive when you finish Makere. I don't know what is in there, but you just keep going back for the second-hand clothes, So I wrote down all the things and the list was long. He says, just detail it. And he said, could you please go back and do that every time you spend and put a month on it? And I kept watching. So he said, after month 3, go back and look at, say, if it was January, February, March, and see what you can cut out. And I just did it because I was like, well, I have time on my hands. I'm 25 years old. And I then noticed the things that I was spending on that were unnecessary. So when I was quitting the bank, I was leaving for another bank that doubled my salary. So I left 2 million for 4 million shillings. However, I realized that when I got the jump, I actually booked a ticket to Malaysia to go on holiday. I like holiday. So do you see how that ticket at that time was 4.8 million shillings, a lot of money. I won't say the year because you will count my age, so I refuse to say that. And so when I saw that behavior, I figured that first, my expenditure had grown because my income had grown, really. But also I realized that as in my car, when I put in fuel at the beginning of the month, I dropped people home, I visited more people. I was very generous in nature. I also paid some school fees for some people. Not a bad thing, but I just started developing certain patterns. So I started cutting out what I thought was unnecessary expenditure because saving did not come naturally for me. So I cut out things that I was like, why did I buy this shoe? You know when you buy that shoe in January and in March you can't find it? So I started cutting those out. And over time, I've done this for the last 15 years until I used to spend way less than the normal expenditure line. I don't know how to say, I was reverse spending. I was not spending any money in a certain month. Of course, when my husband hears this, is like, of course, it's explained. I pay for everything. I'm like, no, you don't pay for everything. I'm in Niginas. Okay, they're called circles in Uganda. So the expenditure summit, what it says is that remove things that you don't need. When you learn to manage your expenses, the clouds clear away. Do you understand? So you create things that you must spend on. So what I do is that, for me, I took it a step higher. I do have an Excel sheet on all my computers, everything that I use, even my kids' laptops, just in case I'm in a space where I can't get it off the cloud. I document all the things that I must spend on. If I must pay my nannies this money, that is it. If I'm going to buy fuel of this much, when it gets finished, I'm going to hop a ride in my husband's car. It is finished. My fuel budget for the month is 150K. And I'm not getting out of that. However, there are some generous people who have fuel cards who will help me sometimes. I'm like, thank you very much. God bless you, but not of my money. Because, as you will see later, with the end in mind, the things that you can do with that saving become humongous. Now, how to know that you're on the right journey on expenditure? They start calling you things like you're mean, you're selfish, you're frugal. A week ago, a friend of mine called me. He was buying books off the internet, and he said, you know, since you're the most frugal person I know, should I buy a second-hand book at $18 or should I buy a new one at $30? I told him, I'm not going to answer that question until you use the right words to address me. So he said, okay, I mean, you know things about expenses. So I said, of course, it's a book. Books are gold. I never buy second-hand books. For me, that is gold. So there are certain things that fall in my golden category. I buy new books because I'm going to keep them forever and reread them. But so they'll call you frugal mean. When they start, my family used to say, Jean, you're mean. And I'm like, amen, amen, because I'm in the right direction. The thing with Africa is that you must leave your people and come back when you're successful to help them. If you help when you're poor and you help the poor, you're going to stay poor. That is why many people stay poor, because we are here. A singer from the village has called Mukaka Shwenkuruwa. The story never ends. You must first go ahead to be able to come and help. All right? So I hope I've explained expenditure. Document and cut out after some time. And it's not an event, it is a process. I've done it for so long, I find it funny now. It's just fun, I know. When someone asks me how much I spend this month, I know for sure. If it gets finished, I look for options. I call my mom and say, Mommy, are you kind enough today? And she'll be like, Jean, but it's funny. Because you'll find people willing to help anyway. You understand? Yeah. So now we go to the income. Now we've understood our expenses. Income. So while I was on my frugal journey, I met a friend of mine. He's called Apostle Mose. And he said he was teaching in one of his classes. And he said, what you focus on grows. I remember sitting there thinking, I've been watching my expenses like a hawk. That is why I could even predict what is going to go wrong. And so he said, you must change your focus to income. Don't forget the expenses. But the thing with expenditure is that no matter what I do, the price of fuel will never change based on my opinion. It's a policy issue. It's a pricing issue. So the things you can't change. I mean, you can't go to Kakira and say, Jean, I want sugar at 1,300. It's funny, isn't it? So you can only cut your expenses up to a certain point. Now you look at your income. So how do you look at your income? You must look at the income streams that you have. I tell people that, when I find, especially the employed people, that's the cohort that I enjoy. Because when I listen to their things, they're very funny. So someone says, my job, I work so hard, and so how many income streams do you have? One, my job. And I go to my fun fact of, seldom have I met a man who's become very rich based on his salary. Your salary is designed to keep you in the system. You know that. Your salary is designed for you to get a loan, use it to pay a loan. You know how it is when you go to Stanchart and you want to get a loan? They'll ask for your bank statement and pay slip. So if you're in an income generating of your core salary, your stuff, use it to get your loans to grow other things. But you must make income streams. Why? Income is the way forward. It will move you from this point to the next. And people then ask, how do you do it? I say start in the areas you're gifted. So as you can see, all three of us here do other things, many things, multiple things, yeah? So, but we're sitting here today working on Women's Day, isn't it? Why? Because we probably have a gift in this space. Find those things. I remember when I was growing up, because I didn't like doing physical work, I used to read books so I could tell stories to people. I tell you I'm such a good storyteller. How do I know? Because I tell stories to children. If you want to know you have a gift in an area, align children in front of you. If they walk away, you don't have that gift. So for me, children are my random taste. I don't do adults because adults have protocol. Children, so I organize children. I like all my friends' children, my nieces, and put them there, and I start talking. When they are bored, I'm like, you have to upgrade. So find your gifts and start on them. That's a starting point. However, the second part is that we will not be gifted in many areas. When people used to ask me a while back, what are your hobbies? I'd say sleeping. I used to love sleep. Until someone said, that's not even right. It is so wrong. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to upgrade to a better dream. So we won't have many gifts in many places. So what do you do? So here's my other favorite. So say you're a Muganda from, Masaka. You grew up with coffee. However, you have a friend from Bara who grew up with cows, isn't it? You have a friend from Teso who grows maize. You have a friend who grows rice. And then you choose to come here in your Masaka to grow rice, to rear your cows. It's not in your DNA. Your DNA had what? Coffee. So people come to me and say, let's get into the chicken business. And I say, tell me about chicken. And they've got no clue about it. So what do I tell them? Find a friend whose grandfather had chickens. Okay, ducks, if you must. Give them 1 million, that money you are going to put, Tell them, you know what, I've given you this 1 million that I was going to put in my chickens. Give me a return of like 50K per month after 3 months. Don't kill them. Don't stifle their business. Are we together? We don't have to do everything. So my current hobby is investing in tech companies. I am having a good time. Because I woke up one day in 2018, got so obsessive with the new technologies, and then I found that there's an array of smart kids who are doing tech things, and I said, now I, Ahumza, from the village, how am I going to understand all these things? I won't, but there are clever people who do, so I encourage them to form businesses, and I become a shareholder. Are we together? In the board meetings, I make the most noise, because I don't understand their things properly, isn't it? But I want my return. Are we together? So when you go to that guy who has grown up and they have acreage and acreage of land doing things, and his grandfather did it, his father did it, give him some little money, okay? The other one that you can do is that every time I walk in Ginger, I find that there are phone shops littered on the main street. And so, but those guys have limited stock. And I'm like, if I lived in Ginger, what I would do, I would come into one of these shops, ask the proprietor, you know what, how much does it take to capitalize your business? Usually 2 million, I don't know. And say, okay, I'll give you the 2 million, but you must give me a return. 30K per month for the next 5 years. Do the maths. You will be rich. The problem with Ugandans when they're investing, someone gives you 1 million, wants a return of 30% per month, you all die. Both of you due to pressure. The end is the same. So think in those spaces. But also, I read a stat that said that because we don't read, so the stat says that of all the people that graduate in the world, only a third of them ever read a book and complete it in their lifetime. What that means is education, we look at it as an event. You go and learn, finish your degree, and put your books far away. So you never read anything. So we don't become subject matter experts in anything. So I encourage people that if you're going to invest in anything, know the basics. So if you've given your friend in the village in Sironko to grow for you, I don't know, groundnuts, just read about groundnuts. And how did I know that? A friend of mine was going to invest in chickens. She had no clue about chickens. What did she do? She flew in a Kenyan guy who had had chicken farms for the last 20 years. Flew in with her own money. This person used to earn way less than me. She was my very good friend. We sat at a restaurant. The man came with his laptop and Excel sheets. And that is when I learned that chickens, when you keep the light on for longer than a certain time of hours, they grow thin because they keep flapping. I ask Ugandans those questions, and many of them don't know. Do you understand? So get knowledge in places where it is, either in books or get a mentor. A mentor is a good thing. And don't get one mentor of, I've come to Tilda is good. Tilda won't help you with your marriage. She'll help you with your finances. Do you understand? So get mentors for different things. And you can get mentors at different journeys. Right now I want to get a hospital. I'm looking for people who own hospitals, and I'm sitting at their feet like a child to learn, so that I don't step in the river with both feet to test if I will sink. All right? So when you've understood the income, now we've understood how to make income, your gifts, read, partner with people who know these things, we go to the next slide. And this is the last one. So along my journey, I finally learned that actually, when you read many books, so now I'm obsessive about reading. I used to like reading, but now I'm obsessive about reading. And every book that I've read consistently, especially on finances, tells you that rich people focus on their net worth. They've moved away from worrying about their expenses and income because now that level they understand. Now they are moving to net worth. Today, when they ask you, how much are you worth? What do you have? Let me tell you, even if you ask your neighbors today, many people that I interact with don't know. They start saying, oh, I have some land in Chitukutwe. Oh, then my grandfather left me some land in Mbale. Oh, yes, we got married in Akokoro, and I think my wife got something. And I keep shaking my head and saying, here goes the national problem. We don't know. And everyone is putting a price. So every time you ask someone who stays in Bulindo, what's the value of your property? You know what they'll tell you? 800 million. I'm like, how do you know? They're like, well, we built it for 400. We're not hiring experts to tell us these things. So net worth. Net worth is basically your assets minus your liabilities. What is an asset? It helps you generate an income. You understand? If you live in your house, it will be an asset for your children when you die. But today when you're paying, for cleaning it, maintaining it, it's not literally an asset. It can be on your balance sheet, but it's not a good asset. Yeah? Assets are start businesses that bring in cash flow and invest in them. So what will be the multiplier of your net worth? I found that the biggest multiplier of how you can grow your wealth is going to be your 3 things, core things, the multiplier. And 1 is going to be your disposition. So let me tell you the fun joke. Do you know that inherently we are tailored to despise or to hate rich people? You know, when they pass with their cars, you're like, oh, look at that bad penkoni. Oh, you know, you say something abusive in your head, isn't it? You're like, you know, when you see a rich person and you hear a story, they've been robbed, you're like, good for them. You know, anything. How will you be rich when your DNA despises rich people? You understand? You must go and bathe off these bad things. Go and talk to your God and say, you know what? Forgive me. Do you understand? Because you can't get there if your inherent core system does not like the things that they have. You do admire them, but you're tailored to hate them. So you need to change that disposition in you. You need to also check how much knowledge you have in your mind. So many times we become arrogant. So I could say that I was an accountant for a long time, and I remember thinking, I can do this in my bed, so it got boring. However, I'm sure that for me to still be on top of my game, I must keep advancing, because things change every day. Don't sit on your knowledge and say, for me, this one, I am the best. Keep changing your knowledge base. Keep growing. And then lastly, you must be open to new ideas. So many people say, I live between 2 homes in the country and in Kampala. So when I go to the country, I listen to the people in the countryside. And I learn things from them. They'll tell you things that you don't know. But because we come from Kampala, we despise them. We think we know better simply because we stay in Nigeria. I don't know where people stay. But you must be open, because many times people will come into your life and they'll teach you something that you don't know. So once you conquer these things, you will then learn that when you eat interest income, you're eating your children and grandchildren. Because when you eat what they call magoba, return, every time you're eating a return on your popcorn business, just know you've eaten your child or grandchild. So ladies and gentlemen, in a very simple way, that's the end of my presentation.
Wow. Wow. I've been in this area, in this space of financial literacy for a while, but it's amazing that every time I listen to speakers like you, like Jean, like Ronald, there's always something new to learn. So the learning process doesn't end, and you wouldn't have made this presentation any better. Thank you so much, Jane. Now, ladies and gentlemen, are you eating your children? No? Are you busy eating profit before you've reinvested this in your businesses? That is the same profit that is going to enable you to grow to the next level and the next and the next. Now, possibly, let me wait for Jean to get to catch her breath, and we continue with the discussion with Ronald, but I'm coming back to clarify on a thing or two. Now, Ronald, you find that a number of NGOs are doing so much work out there to empower the women. Do you have any notable examples and some of the key things that they have done to empower a typical woman in Uganda?
Yeah, I think as you've rightly put it, there has been a lot of support to women. And I think for me, I've been in this space for close to about 10 to 15 years now. And one thing which I've noticed which has changed is there is a greater conversation on entrepreneurship now. I felt where we started was helping women on the social front, areas of human rights and things like that. I feel like there has been a change in the conversation to women entrepreneurship. I've had the opportunity to lead two projects which are strengthening women entrepreneurs, largely in northern Uganda and all over the country. I've seen a couple of people who were part of them a bit earlier in the audience. And I think for me, one thing which I can say is that in as much as it appears that steps have been taken, more steps have to be taken. So there has been funding in this area, but still the size of the problem is very big. And one of the challenges which we have in the NGO sector is that it ends. So you help someone start a business, and when it's just starting to take off, you say we have ended this project. And then we miss out on a successful entrepreneur who would have been able to break through. So I think that that's one of the areas which needs to be improved. How do we make sure that it's more sustainable? And that's why projects which are possibly run by government may be helpful, because government has usually a longer staying power. But how does it complement with the great lessons which we have learned? Because various projects have been run to support women entrepreneurs, some young, some rural, some urban. But many times knowledge is not being shared well, and I think possibly that's one of the things, Jean, which organizations like yours, which bring together many people, can do. How do we ensure that best practices are being actually shared and people are starting to learn from each other? So I feel like there is a lot of excellent work which has been done, but the size of the problem is still very big.
Okay, thank you. Now you find that since the inclination is to entrepreneurship, it seems like the program like is on the right track, that as long as they empower the woman out there to make the money, first of all, get the income. And as you're getting the income, you're doing what Jean had talked about, you're understanding that business thoroughly well. And then after, you can move on to the next level. Reinvest, grow. Reinvest, grow. Move to the next level. Pull up another woman. Do we do that? You know, most of us are trying to get ahead. We are trying to push forward. And we are surrounded by other women who may not have the same opportunities that we have. Now, Jean, how can a woman out there help another woman? I know you're possibly under a program rolled out by NSSF, FSDU, all has come in, but you are still tasked to go back. You've been pushed up to a certain level. Go back, pull someone at least to where you were, and then you continue while pulling up other women. What can a woman out there do to empower another woman to go ahead and move in the right direction? Thank you.
Thank you, Tilda. I think I came to crossroads with that question about 2015. And I was deliberate, and I said, if I ever enter a room and there's no woman, I'll try and walk back and pull a woman in, even if she'll sit at the corner. Just let her come and observe. Women, we sometimes, as some books have written, we are our greatest enemies because we fight so hard to get to where we are. We are like, I have fought so hard, I cannot bring a person ahead. However, I think the advantage this country has is the circles, the power of circles. I've watched women in those groups help each other. But how do we take the circles forward? Accountability. We ask each other. So like I said, I'm in like 7 Niginas. My husband finds it so unprofessional. It's joyful. I like every month I'm balancing my books. In this one, I'm getting this much. So what we do in some of them is that we ask each other, so when you get this lump sum, what people call modidi, of 7 million, what are you going to do? And someone says, I'll lay a foundation. Now, what we do is that when you get that money, we come and ask, did you lay the foundation that you said? Some people say, I'll start the chicken project. So we hold each other accountable. The risk to women not doing this for one another is that we've got so many girl children looking up to us, and they must grow up in a world that is different from ours, where they feel comfortable to sit in the same room as men. When a man walks into a room, he'll take the topmost chair automatically. You know, he'll sit in the, I don't know what they call it, the daddy's chair. You know what I do when I walk into a room? I sit at the head of the table as well. I have practiced. Was it easy? No, it wasn't. When I find men having a conversation, women live at the peripherals of conversations. So men will make it hard by discussing soccer all the time. It's so hectic. But I'll get in there and pretend that I'm listening, just to show them that I'm here to stay. You must have the staying power. I read a book that said that these Americans went to fight in Vietnam, and one of them was captured, and he was kept in jail in a small cell, blindfolded most of the time, and it was dark. However, the few minutes he'd be let out once in a long while, he'd go and motivate other people. Eventually, this guy and like 3 others came back home. Most of them died. And they asked him, what did you do differently? Were you optimist? Were you pessimist? What was it? He said the pessimists died, the optimists died. You know the optimists, the ones who are joyful. He said, those who had the will to persevere without a due date, and we must make that difference. You see, the small things that you do every day, when you don't know when the fire will catch, are the ones we have to keep doing. You can't say that I'm sure in 2025, we will have more women sitting in boardrooms. So you know what my vision is? I tell my people that when I retire and I'm walking on Kampala Road, I will look up in the buildings and the CEOs in those buildings will have passed through my hands. And for me, I don't give them an option. You understand, I look at this country and I see buildings coming up, infrastructure getting better. And people say, how do you see it? The economy is going down. And I said, which economy? We must have hope that is going to persevere. You understand, So women, if your children see you pulling another woman into the room, if they see you doing the things that daddy walks out of the house to do, they'll be like, it's business as usual. But if my children, I worry, if they see me always in the kitchen, okay, now me, it's the reverse. My kids, when they see me cooking, they're like, Mommy cooked. And I'm happy with it. I'm absolutely happy with it. I have my beliefs, my fundamentals, and it's worked for me. So I'm sure none of my kids will be near the kitchen. Not in a bad way. They will cook when they have to eat, but it won't be their dwelling place. So make intentional the things that you want to see ahead of you. And I hope this will change us one step at a time.
Okay, thank you. And Ronald, what can women do to pull up other women?
I think I'll join Jean on this. I think it is pull up the first one next to you. I think the temptation to do big things usually takes away our will to do the small ones that can be done. It is giving a chance, if you're a woman entrepreneur, giving a chance for a manager who is a lady. You find many women entrepreneurs, when you talk to them, they talk about fellow women the same way you would say men talk about women. They say, no, I can't employ this fellow. They usually have problems, they have family problems. Then you say, but you of all people should what? Should understand this. So I think the question which we need to ask ourselves is, who are you, who is in front of you that you need to pull up? So pull up the person next to you. And I think that all of us are in positions of control to be able to do something. You can, if a person comes and tells you, I want to be a driver of your school van, and it's a lady, are you also going to join everyone else in saying, but the driver is a what? Is a lady. You see that? And the thought will cross your mind. But you need to fight that thought, because for me that is how you give someone a foot in the room. If someone comes and says, I want to be a security guard at your premises, if you own a hardware store, and a lady comes and says, I want to join the loading team, are you going to let her, or will you be the first person to tell her that women don't carry? You see that? So those are questions which I think we all can be able to address. Open that first door and let someone else. I think a second thing which I could say is that you need to appreciate that in whatever you say, whatever you do, there is a woman out there watching you. So when all progress comes from individuals who give permission to others, and this is, I think you have heard about the analogy of the 4-minute mile. For a long time, humans were unable to run a mile in 4 minutes. The first guy who did it, it's somewhere in the 60s, I think. The next year, 5 people did it. The other year, nowadays, we can't have a marathon. You won't enter the marathon. If you won't do if you can't run a mile in 4 minutes, you won't even join the competition. So it means to qualify, you have to run a mile in 4 minutes. But the point is that the first person who does it, and many of you are pioneers in the sectors you have chosen, you could be the first woman in your family to own a hardware store. You could be the first woman to own a chemicals company. And what you have done is that you are the first person. You have given permission to others. So you have a responsibility you are carrying which is beyond just your financial success. You carry that responsibility. There are girls who are watching you, who are watching every step. I was listening to Michelle Obama recently, and she said that when they were stepping out of the White House, she felt that every day they are watching her because first she was black, second she was a woman. And they are watching you. They are watching what kind of first lady are you going to be. So the point is that in many of the spaces which you have entered, you are pioneers. What that means is that we are all watching you. It's not going to be easy, but that's a responsibility which I think you should hold with a lot of honor, because it means that you have gone into a place which doesn't have a path and you have created one. The girls who come after you are going to find it simpler. It's going to be normal. If an organization has had a female CEO before, they possibly understand that the office needs to change a bit. That it's not, most offices are set up for male CEOs. But a female CEO, what kind of, but the first CEO will say that, you know what, this might be helpful in this what? In this office. And she gives permission to the next one to have the same. So for me, I think focus on the person who is right in front of you. There is that young lady, that woman in front of you who wants your help. You pull them up. You're going to have to put in a word for them. Some of you are seated on committees of recruitment, and you're the only one woman on the committee. And the conversation starts, and you say, and the conversation is, do you think a woman can manage this job? And every man is agreeing, I don't think she will manage. I don't think. And your role in that room is to say that I am here and I am managing my job. She possibly can manage. And your temptation will be to join in because it's the comfortable position. But the point is that that's your job. Put a word out. Make sure you help the person in front of you.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. And possibly just to add on to this part of the discussion, you find that, okay, I'll cite an example. A couple of weeks back, I was looking for the manager of KCCA Football Club. So they tell me, you call this lady, she's called Anisha, and she'll handle. So I call Anisha. She picks up and she's like, oh yeah, I'm the manager of the KCCA Football Club. Now the first thing I told Anisha was, okay, yeah, we talked a bit about the issue at hand, but much as it was a formal communication, I just found myself telling her that I am so glad you're a woman and you're managing the KCCA Football Club. What stood out for me in that moment is that women should applaud women who are making a difference in whatever they are doing. Not so. Applaud them. Let them stay there. Let them do more. Let them go higher. And as they are going higher, they are doing what we are talking about. They are pulling you and pulling us and pulling the rest of us into a position of better responsibility. Let's first clap for the women making a difference. Yeah, if it wasn't for COVID, you would be giving each other high five, to applaud the women who are making a difference in their lives. Now, as we are coming to the close of our discussion, our topic for today has been pinned up on the notice throughout our discussion, and it is women in finance. And if we're talking about women in finance, much as we have covered a lot about our personal finances, we still need to look into how women can get on board the formal financial system. You still need to find a way of aligning your financial decision-making to the formal financial system, the services and products that are out there to move us in the right direction. We have a few banks that are already focusing on women. They have women accounts. They have projects here and there that are focused on women. They are looking for you left, right, and center. But what are we doing? Most of us are keeping our money informally. We're keeping our money, I don't want to demonstrate, but some of you do, you know. You're keeping the money somewhere close so that you can easily access it. But at the end of it all, we still need to get on board the formal financial system so that you can access the opportunities that the men are getting. And we are already moving at par because what a typical man out there can access, the woman can access. But we are trying to emphasize that have no fear, have confidence that these services are also out there and that they can enable you to move your financial life in the right direction. So to our panelists, do you have a few examples in mind of some of the products and services or the initiatives done by the formal financial institutions that can empower the typical woman to move her financial decision-making in the right direction? I'll start with you, Jean.
Thank you, Tilda. I would have started with movable collateral,
Yes.
because ladies have that, but I need to first go back to infrastructure like electricity. When electricity comes to a place, you'll find that most male-denominated businesses will up and take it on, yeah? While ladies will wait, one, because of the cost of it, but second, because they have not figured out that things like electricity equal to growth. Why they increase the number of hours you work, isn't it? And most automations are leveraged on that. So those are things that people need to think through of, like, when you see your electricity line passing, tap on it. However, when motions like movable collateral come in place, what that means is that you can now use your cows, your goats, to take as security, because inherently, like I think it was Ronald saying, people don't inherit land, women. It's given to the men. And so women usually had, ideally, movable collateral. Some goats, some cows, Bambi, some chickens. So now when those can be accepted as security to borrow, and also things like making sure that interest rates are at par, because studies have been showing that interest rates to women are shorter in term, and also a little bit higher based on the risk. I don't know what risk women have, yet we save money more than men. So when these things come out of the picture, or we can push boundaries of, like, how come you've given that mwalimu man 20% and you give me 25%, I think we'll have a foot in the door. So those are things we need to look out for. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ronald?
No, I think one thing which I'll add is, and I'll discuss this from the perspective of a family business. I think one of the challenges which we have is many times you find that the structure or the formalization structure of a family business has the man as the owner of the what? Of the business. And in an agriculture setting, most women will work the land and the man sells the coffee. And I think one of the things which we possibly need to improve is to make the woman's contribution more visible. And I think for the bigger businesses, it would be nice to make sure that at least when it comes to shareholding, we can see that the woman is part of the shareholders. There are many women who are working in a family business, but actually, when you look at the documentation, you can't see that they are part of the owners of the business. And usually the chaos starts when the husband dies, and there is a battle to pull, and usually many businesses have been destroyed because of that, simply because there wasn't clear documentation. So I think efforts towards ensuring that the woman becomes more visible. Some banks, and I think the law now is, if you bring a family home, your wife needs to make sure that they have signed, which I think is brilliant. But we possibly need to spread this out a bit more, that if a big loan is being taken, and indeed it's a family business, we need to make sure that the picture and the contribution of the woman is coming out. In its absence, usually you find possibly a credit has been taken against a family asset, and the credit is eating up the family asset, yet actually there was even no consent in the beginning that we should take this. So that at that formalization level, I think it's an important conversation which needs to be pushed.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I'll come back to Jean, but we are winding up our discussion. I'm hoping we can get a few questions to our organizers. We have a few. Okay, so Jean, I like the fact that you highlighted your inclination to the digital space and the developments that are coming up in that area. And you find that only 53% of women are using digital mechanisms to be able to transact and plan for their finances. which advice would you give them to improve their access to finance through the digital financial systems?
Thank you, Tilda. I think critical to the discussion is the language used when technology is being used. So language is overcomplicated. So when we speak into the digital space, we must disseminate the information so that the user can understand it, even at the grassroots. Recently, I was convincing a gentleman in the village to open a bank account, and he laid down his fears. The money will disappear, those people speak a lot of English. Those were his fears inherently. So when we speak tech, and many people pretend to understand tech to the core, simply because it will look like you're ignorant if you say, I don't understand what machine learning is. But why am I using the word machine learning in the first place? To show that I'm an expert at something. When someone, and I think the best case example is Bitcoin and blockchain. And I tell people that the resistance of blockchain is because you have failed to break it down into smaller particles so people can understand. And I'm talking about blockchain, the underlying technology, not the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is the money, blockchain is the platform on which that runs the money, but it can be applied in different use cases. So if countries say like Uganda adopt blockchain, the way Dubai did, what does it do? It opens up transactions, it's a good digital ledger, everyone can understand where the money went, it takes away corruption, it makes sure everyone is secure because everyone has a key. It is absolutely a good thing. However, will we jump on it as a country? No. Why? We don't understand it, or it has been sold in the wrong way. So what do? We must speak a language that is fair. And I tell people, if you're going to sell something and your 7-year-old does not understand it, stop the product, isn't it? Because if you cannot explain it to a 7-year-old mind, and as told, 7 years is a time when genius kind of starts getting capped, then it's going to be hard to sell it to the mass population. So when we are going out to these ladies out there in the field, what are we telling them are the advantages of the digital economy? How do they know that mobile money? You know that because of the few frauds that have happened on mobile money and the shunning now that people have put out there, people are afraid. Is it a good thing? Absolutely it is. I would rather sleep with the money on my phone than have it in my where Tilda Heed has. You understand? Are the costs to it very heavy? Yes. I always wonder, why does a person in Rukunjiri have to pay the same transaction fees to when they are doing their business in the village, same as me in Kampala? It bothers me. The cost should be cheaper as you go down the scale. And I'm sure the telecos can figure this out, and Tilda Alfred, who is in the central bank. So those are the things that we need to think through: language and cost of administering these things.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, as we wind down the discussion, I think we can listen to a few questions, and then the panelists will give us their closing remarks. Let's first clap for them, and then we'll listen to. Yeah, thank you so much. So we can proceed with the questions.
Thank you very much, Tilda, for moderating such an illuminating discussion. I was glued to my chair, and by the time I was told to come and take on the Q&A, I was like, can I do it from there so that I am digesting the information? So thank you very much. We have quite a number of questions, but to start with, I'll first ask Anne-Marie to put out the poll before we delve deeper into the questions for just a few minutes.
Okay.
Anne, please go ahead. Should I proceed? Okay. So Maureen asks, Mrs. Mutabazi, first of all, thank you very much. You have put it really well. What were the signs you looked at to know that you're actually doing bad and you needed to improve? And how do you deal with trust issues as you are investing in the different businesses? The second question is, you're talking about reinvest and grow. But if one has an income-generating business, what percentage of the profit from the business should one spend on themselves? For example, buy a dress or two. Many of the women I have interacted with suffer from the someday syndrome, which is procrastination. What advice can the panel offer in dealing with this weakness, and why is it more associated with women than men? Jean, this question goes to, yes, Jean again. Is it okay for someone to resign and just be a housewife as they plan to learn a new skill or venture into business? This is to all the panelists. How can women be supported to access business financing? And lastly, this goes to NSSF. Please advise women on how saving works, especially for us who are no longer working for organizations, how to join, what benefits we get. So before we ask, we'll come back to the audience to get more questions. And then Anne had suggested there were some people whose hands were up. I think we'll take it after this first lot of questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with you, Jean. Kindly go through the questions that you've been asked.
Thank you, Aisha, for the questions. You know, when some came through, I was like, my heart skipped a bit. Huh? Okay, so the first one is, how did I know I was doing badly? I guess I was lucky. I learned around the same period that I'm probably not getting an inheritance. Huh? So you know when you wake up and your parents tell you, by the way, your inheritance was your education. Has anyone gone through that phase? Mm-hmm. It is mind-opening, mind-boggling, and you know, it changes something, shifts. So the first reaction was anger. I was upset. And I remember thinking, why? You know, because I had a couple of friends whose parents had even bought them like cars and stuff, you know, they were on the roll. But the beauty is that after the anger phase comes now, what do we do about it? So that for me was my turning point. So different people have done turning points. Maybe your husband will refuse to give you Kameza money and you get motivated to move. So find that thing that will change you. However, if nothing changes you, if you think that the life you have today is good enough for your children to have, then that's very good for you. However, if you want your children to go ahead and be like Elon Musk, who left Africa and went and slept on the streets, and now he's doing things on Mars, not on Earth, then for me that's fundamental. Because I know inherently that my children must do better than me. My grandparents did a very good job. Our parents have done a very good job, so we can do better for the next generations. How do you deal with trust issues? Every time this question comes up, I tell people, you know Ugandans are good people. Did you know that? There'll be a few bad people, but inherently, I think we are good people. The hearts of people, and look around the people you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people and you think they are bad people, you are the next bad person. So every time people tell me that, I'm like, just show me a few of your friends so I can be careful. Because all the people that I'm surrounded with are honestly good people. So I do business with my people, all my friends. I tell my friends, if I cannot discuss business with you, we're wasting time. Because how long can we talk about our children? They've grown. They no longer have teeth falling out. How long can we complain about our spouses? He came back late. It's so minute and micro. We must elevate. So with all my friends, we discuss business. So on the WhatsApp groups, I'm always saying, why isn't the school doing this? Stuff like that. Because we can laugh, we can have game night, but I need to squeeze in a business question. So who you surround yourself with is basically kind of a replica of who you are. So look around, find good people, and do things with them. And then the last one that I'll answer is the percentages. So I need you to start at the basics. So because many people, when I tell them my model of what I do, they're like, oh, that's extreme. But I know that that works for me. I've had time. So the first thing you do when you get your salary, I'll start with the non-denominational people who are not spiritual. So if you get your money and you're not a believer in anything, pay yourself first. Get 10% of your money, 10%, guys, and put it on an account and thank yourself. Congratulate yourself. You've worked so hard. Thump your chest and say, wabra, okoze, as a basic. When you finish paying yourself, now come and say, what are my expenses that I'm going to spend on? And in those expenses, you must create another 10% to spend on you. So how do you know that you're going to the promised land? I tell people that why we have, and not like an attack to architects, but every time I drive around Uganda until the last 2 years, everyone had an ugly house. Did you realize? It was big but ugly. Big but ugly. But I think what now people have started doing is expose themselves so they can see better plans. You understand? So because I liked going to expensive stores, I would enter and touch. I would enter. Sorry. Thank you. No, they all. Oh, yeah. Now it's back. So I would enter and touch materials of expensive things, even chairs. Why did I do that? I wanted to make sure that one day when I'm very rich, I'm not surprised. Do you understand? Because for me, I've already planned ahead that I'm going to be extremely wealthy. I leave no room for surprises. I don't want you to find bad curtains in my house. You're like, but she's rich, why does she? You understand? So the first time I went to Harvard in the US, the first trip I went to the US, I said I'm going to Harvard. It was for something different. Why did I go to Harvard? Because my children will be rowing the boats there. Do you understand? I needed to experience it first. So you must make sure that you reward yourself into the future. How will you be rich when you've never invested in yourself a meal of 50K? You know, you're shy, you're like, this money can buy us food for a week at my home, eat it, You've worked. However, that works. Then you grow the percentages going forward. And the last one of resigning to become a housewife, I honestly think everyone has a formula for themselves. If it gives you joy, at most profound joy, good for you, because then that's your purpose. However, if it doesn't, I tell people that we are wired to do many things and we don't use even 30% of our brain. I am sure you can take good care of your children. And in the same... The microphones are off, eh? Yes. No.
Is mine?
You can, eh? Yes. And in the same breath, do other things. Because long time ago, someone asked me, when I was saying I don't like multitasking, he said, you mean you cannot chew gum and walk? It stayed with me for a long time. What has chewing gum got to do with walking? So what has you putting money in a Nigina or in an investment club or in a circle or in the NSSF voluntary saving to grow your return got to do with you being a housewife? You understand, eh? So it's the way we apply our mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Ronald?
I think I'll address myself to procrastination. I think this was mentioned. I guess for me, you have two choices. You will either jump or you will be pushed off the cliff. And you have to choose which one you are going to use as the prompter. So when you think about procrastination, I had, as I mentioned earlier, I had an opportunity to work with the entrepreneurs, mostly in rural areas. We worked a lot in northern Uganda, over 5,000 rural women entrepreneurs. One of the most fascinating statistics is how many women started business when they became widows. It was such a fundamental statistic. And it's not what we are looking for, but as soon as we started going through and looking at the profiles of a number of the women entrepreneurs, it was one of the things. And that is being pushed off the cliff. Because the day the husband is not there, you can no longer say, my children won't go to school because the husband is not there. And many of them had started very, very amazing businesses and they were quite successful. So the point is that you have two choices. You're on a cliff, you can spend as long as you want on the cliff. You can jump on your own terms, and there are few people who have jumped, who have said, you know what, I believe I can do much better, I am going to jump. But many people are just pushed. But whichever way you are going down that cliff, and the longer you wait, it doesn't help. So I guess for me, depending, you find someone who has been planning to do something for the last 5 years. At a personal level, this is one of the biggest challenges I also have. I will get excited about something and then I will be excited about it the next month, and 2 years later I'm still excited about it, but it hasn't happened. But what I've observed is that it's always a cliff decision. And the people who jump usually jump on their own terms. They get a chance to plan their jumping better. They possibly will put on a parachute and they jump with a parachute. They will possibly dress appropriately. Most people who are pushed off the cliff actually don't choose. You jump the way you are. So I guess all of us who are out there who have been toying with an idea for a long time, and this is the purpose of such meetings, it could be the one which kind of nudges you off the cliff. You jump. And one of the best ways of jumping is by associating with people who have jumped before. Some of us have friends who confirm our fears. every time we meet, you say things are bad in business. I agree with you. Things are very, very bad. We are all suffering. And then you find that those are your top 5 friends. You are all always talking about why you shouldn't do this thing. And it's impossible to start a business in such an environment. I usually tell people that, the people who have the opportunity to have a job at 8 to 5, if you have no friend from Chikubo, you won't possibly understand Kampala. It's your friend who will tell you that, the way we can have our business plan and it's well written out, and you say, I need to start when I have 18 million shillings, and possibly I've also saved up an extra 5 if things go bad. So you go and tell your friend in Chikubo that you have 3 million now. I tell you, if you have 3 million, it's okay, you come. Just buy those Buvera from that shop there, put them outside here, the things will work. And then you say, but that's not a good business plan. It doesn't look well thought out. He says, no, it's simple. Enter that big shop, buy the Buvera, put them outside here, and sell them. I can promise you by the end of 4 days, you will make 400,000. And indeed. And why? Because for him, it is his reality. It is how he deals with every day. So many times you may have to surround yourself with people who have done this before. And in their absence, you possibly won't be prompted to actually jump.
Okay, thank you very much. That's so insightful and practical. And I'm hoping this year you take those steps in the right direction for those things that you had envisaged to start. You always have to act, even if it's a step, but a step in the right direction. We shall get there. Now, NSSF had a question on saving. So, okay, we can have a representative.
Thank you so much. The question was about if you're out of employment, where can you save? So NSSF has a product called voluntary savings. It's applicable for anyone who has ever saved with NSSF, anyone who is registered, even if you had not started saving. And then if you have a registered company and have at least 5 employees and below, you can also save with NSSF. The minimum is 10,000. Yeah, so that's the product available. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much. Let's clap for NSSF. So for the women out there is no excuse. Jean has already told us you can start with at least 10% of everything you're earning. By the way, when the discipline of saving grows, you can find yourself next month you're saving 20%, 40%, because you're doing what we talked about at the expenditure summit. You are reducing the expenses, and what happens when you reduce the expenses? You can increase on your level of saving. But of course, as you carry on with the saving discipline, NSSF enables us to save for our retirement. You can save for every other aspect in your life. Don't say that, I saved for retirement, that is sufficient. No, save for retirement. How does it stop you from saving for school fees? From saving for that dress that you want? The dress may be nice, 300,000 shillings, but you don't have it now. Save for it, phase it out, and buy the dress in 4 months. Because you want the quality that Jean talked about. You do not want to compromise on quality. You want it. But how do you get it without compromising your financial position? So save with a plan, and save for every aspect of your life. Women, are we going to start saving? You just say yes. And then we shall see with the next income. Okay, let's carry on with the question.
Thank you very much, Tilda. Before I take 2 questions from the audience, I just wanted to re-echo Jean's submission on how our social capital is very important. The people we surround ourselves with will either make you jump off the cliff or confirm your what? Fears. So from the audience, I'd love to take 2 questions, and then we wrap up with 2 last questions from the online community. Please come ahead and use the mic. Or if there's a mic, please pass it over.
Good afternoon.
I'm Director. The Managing Director of Extra Care Pharmaceuticals Uganda. I'm so interested with the expenditure aspect of the training, and I would like to know, are there any apps, are there any softwares that we can use to keep tracking our expenditures? Apart from Excel, Excel is very tedious. Are there others that are easy? For example, when we were doing the incubator training, part of this year and last year, one of the trainers spoke of the spending tracker. I downloaded it on my phone, and I started using that. But are there other options? I may be using one that is not as good as others that could be available.
We'll take the second question, which is the last. No one? Okay, so I'll proceed with the ones here and then we wrap up. We all know that limitations to accessing financing for women is one of the barriers that limits, elevation of women businesses, but also things like planning for retirement. So the question is, how can women be supported to access business financing? Then the last question is, how does one become a part of the O program? Yeah.
Possibly we could start with the last one, a representative from O to take us through how someone can become part of the, can get part of the program.
No. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that question. Okay, so that everyone does not turn and look behind it. Look like I have a backwards. Let me stand here or here. That's better?
Oh, here.
I come in front. Okay, so Academy of Women Entrepreneurs, the uptake or the way that you join the program, it's usually a very transparent process. We put out a call, usually on our social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, and then also we send the same attachments to our partners. We've had partners, You Will has been our partner. We'll send that link to our partners now, NSSF. I would send it to FSDU. I would send it to Bank of Uganda. I would send it to Stanbic Bank, Stanbic Business Incubator, so that we believe that they know the women, or they have a network of women who have businesses and are looking to know, how do I get to that level? How do I scale? How do I improve? So through that call, people make applications, and then we do an analysis of that, and we zero down to the final applicants depending on the number that we are taking. So it's a transparent process. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's get back to Jean.
I will answer the question of the software tracker, the business tracker. And my first response is, I'll build it for you. So if the thing with tech, and this I found when I went to China in 2016 or 17. I remember going to a store because at the other side of the counter laughed and said, in Africa, says no, we don't buy software. We create software. We build for you what you want. So if you let one of my people to build the software, I will build. However, I know that NSSF was doing some work on a platform. It's not working. Oh, okay, it's working now. Yes, so I know that NSSF was doing some work on a platform that could be of help. But if you want me to build it for your business, I'll do that for you. So.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jean. Possibly just to add a bit on the issue of expenses. Yes, the digital interventions enable us to track our expenses easier, but then you can also go old school. Get a book. Write down your expenses, especially for someone who is doing this for the first time. Understand your cash flows. Look at how much you're earning periodically and the expenses. Possibly after 3 months, when you are aware and you're in touch with your finances, get a software to make the whole process easier, you know? So get yourself a book, buy yourself a book, use it for planning, use it for budgeting, and get your finances on track, okay? Ronald?
Yeah, I think a couple, but one thing I'll ask on this conversation, always get a receipt. Always get a receipt. One of the best ways of recording your finances is by having documentary evidence that you have actually spent. And a good example is a petrol station. If you ever sat at a petrol station for a whole day, chances are of the 500 cars which come to take fuel, only 5 will ask for a receipt. And yet the petrol station has the receipt. Some of them are even printed, but people leave them there. The supermarket gives you a what? A receipt. So a good starting point may be saying that, you know what, I'll have a small tin. Everything I do, I'll try to ask for what? For a receipt. Throw it into the tin, and then you can sit there and then go through those what? Those receipts. So it could be another thing which you do, which builds onto the applications you have been mentioned. And there was a question on how to help women access financing. I think many financial institutions are trying to make sure that they bring more women into the financial space. But I think one thing which we have to appreciate is the financial institution will always look at you as a client. It's not going to look at you as a woman. It's going to look at you as a client. So there are no points which someone is going to get because they are a woman. They want your business to be as solid as any other business. They can do a lot of work on supporting, on helping you better prepare, but it's highly unlikely that you will see a bank which will say that I give women a lower interest rate, unless they establish for sure that women are better at repaying. If they are better at repaying, then that's a statistic which they will put into their logarithm, and they will say that possibly I can give a lower interest rate. So that's usually the starting point, that the business is not going to get any favors because it's being run by a woman. But again, we know that women-run businesses have their advantages. I think we mentioned a couple of them earlier. When you think about organizations which work with groups, women pay much better than, and rarely they are, male groups are also very rare. I was about to say they pay much better than male groups, but it's very rare to find a male group. But the point is that women groups pay much better. So that's something which has been established. Why? Because organizational capacity is better, and then the trust and the social capital within the group can be used as leverage for the loan. So I think that for me, we need to appreciate how do we strengthen that. And that's at the heart of the point I want to make. I think that one of the things which can quickly increase access for financing for women, SACCOs grow faster. Because largely, most of them, actually the members are women, but also they are run by women. So you find that a number of women will have a group of people who they are part of. The question we need to ask is that if a SACCO starts today and it has capacity to lend 500,000, how do we ensure that within 5 years that SACCO has capacity to lend 5 million? Within 10 years it has capacity to lend 20 million. Because if it has that capacity, that means the women-led businesses are able to access that financing. We are hearing in Kenya that SACCOs have started lending to each other. So they are even they pick money and they lend it to another SACCO. So what we need to ask is, how do we ensure that SACCOs don't get stuck in remaining small, always dealing with small financial problems? How do we help them grow? And a lot of that is work on governance. A lot of that is work on just even accessing some cheaper finance, but also organizational capacity so that they can be able to be run well. So I think for me, if we do work there, if circles grow, I believe that the greatest benefactors will actually be women. There are circles in this city which lend up to 200 million, 300 million shillings. And if that's the number which someone needs to be able to start their factory or to buy a new machine, it would be exciting to say that I've been on this journey from a small, when we were smaller, but now we are much bigger and we are able to do that. So that for me is possibly one of the quick solutions.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm hoping all the questions have been answered.
Yes. I hate to be the one to put this exhilarating discussion to an end, but
Okay.
I would love to bounce it back to you, Hilda, to have closing remarks from each panelist in less than 2 minutes before I invite Fiona to give her closing remarks, and then we can have refreshments and a short break after. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much. Panelists, you have 2 minutes. I think I'll go last after you. And kindly, at the end of your closing remarks, share a number that the viewers can reach you on to carry on with the discussion. A number or email, contact. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Tilda. Mine is to say thank you for the organizing of this event. I'd like to say thank you to AWE, thank you to NSSF, thank you to all the partners that have made sure that we are here today as ladies. I'd like to thank the team that showed up and the people listening online. Why is it critical? On Women's Day, most people think it's another public holiday. Go home and sleep and maybe wait for breakfast. But when we start having these discussions in rooms like this, and there are men in here, we're working together towards something bigger. So let's not drop the momentum. I honestly think that when women rise up, nations rise. When I grew up looking at Margaret Thatcher, when I look at Angela Merkel, when I, those women drive me because they're girls. They face the same things and they have partners, and they have partners. So being married doesn't stop you from doing great things. So let's keep this momentum. Let's see the changes happening in our lives and let's see what happens a year from now. My address is jeankasiria@gmail.com. Very simple, no doubles, only one foreign name, Jean, but jeankasiria@gmail.com. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Ronald?
Yeah, I think I would also like to thank O for giving us this opportunity together with NSSF and the Stanbic Incubator and the other partners. It's always an honor to come and share. I again want to thank the ladies for letting a man sit on the panel. It's very generous of you. We are very grateful. I guess my final remarks are that it's a journey and we should look at financial independence as a journey and not a destination we are going to get to. A few people will get as high as they hope, but every day there is a financial decision you need to make, and we hope that you make it well. And I'll close by saying that we all have a responsibility to constantly learn. It's just the new way things are. We need to constantly engross ourselves in learning how we can become better in our finances. And you'll find that the people you are learning from are sometimes unlikely. You can learn from a taxi conductor, a lady who sells on the roadside. You can learn from anyone. And I think keeping an open mind to be able to learn is one of the greatest tools which you can move with in the new normal, well, in the world today. Yeah, so I'll say thank you, and my contact is 075 035 188.
Again, one more time.
0758 035 188. And my email is ronald.mokasa@gmail.com. It's as simple as jeans, with a simple dot in the middle.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ronald. To all those that have viewed the program, to the ladies here present, happy Women's Day once again. We thank our panelists, Jean and Ronald, for such a brilliant discussion. And of course, we seek to appeal to all the women out there that let us continue this journey of understanding these issues on how to plan for our finances better. And as we continue striving for more, striving for better, seeking financial products and services that are suitable to the needs that we have, the formal financial system will also go out of its way to create products that can better enable you to transact and move your lives in the right direction. So happy Women's Day. God bless you. I'm Tilda Nabanja. You can reach me on tildatil@gmail.com. So I think that brings us to the end of our discussion. Thank you. God bless you. And yes, I pass you over to O/NSSF/ Stanbic Incubator. Thank you so much. And I hope we can now close off the discussion.
Wow. Thank you so much. Another big hand clap for them. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Jean, thank Ronald, and Tilda. It has been an amazing conversation. I kept having to go out. I kept thinking, oh, I wish today I was just part of the audience and I did not have any other role. It was an amazing conversation, great insights. I always say that whenever we go, or whenever you go for a talk, pick one thing, just one thing, and purpose to take it up and do it for 1 year. So that's what one thing I'd like us to do, to challenge ourselves as we leave this room, to pick out that one thing and do it for a whole year. So that next year, March 8th, we can come back here and say, hey, Jean, Ronald, Tilda, you said it, I went, I practiced, and this is the result. So we thank you so much, the amazing ladies of O. You're awesome. Our partners, NSSF, you are awesome. Our partners, Stanbic Business Incubator, you're awesome. Our panelists, thank you so much. So we can, I hope that as we go our different ways, we have a great day, we have a great year ahead, continue to be challenged. Thank you so much for coming, and God bless you. To our people on online, we thank you so much for being with us, for taking your time. It's not, you've been with us for over 2 hours, and we thank you. Hope that next time you shall continue to join us. Thank you.